Welcome back to Sustaining Soils. I'm your host, Lisa Peterson, and each episode, our goal is to bring you insights from experts on various sustainable agriculture topics. On today's episode, we have Michelle Perez and Meng Li from American Farmland Trust, or AFT. Our hope today is to provide you with some valuable insights into the economic side of soil health and equip farmers with data-driven tools to optimize their practices. Well, with us today, we have two experts in the field, and I would love to introduce them to you. First of all, I'm going to start with you, Michelle. And Michelle Perez works for American Farmland Trust. And I'm going to have you, Michelle, give a little bit of a background for our listeners on AFT and then also what your role is within it.
Wonderful. It's so nice to be here. Thank you for this opportunity. American Farmland Trust is a nonprofit organization with offices all across the country. And our mission is to save the land that sustains us. And we do that using three approaches. We focus on protecting farmland from development. We promote environmentally sound farming practices. And we focus on work that helps keep farmers on the land and prepares the next generation of farmers.
Excellent. And what is your role and how long have you been with AFT?
I am the Water Initiative Director at AFT, and I've been here 9 years now this April. I lead a fantastic team of 7 staff members that range from soil scientists to ag economists and policy folks, and we try to focus on the unintended consequence of farm and food and fiber production, which is environmental harms.
Well, thanks, Michelle, for being with us. We are so glad to have you. And I also want to introduce one of your other colleagues, Meng Li. So, Meng, would you introduce yourself, how long you've been at AFT, and what your role is?
Sure. Thank you, Lisa. I am Meng Li. I am a senior soil health scientist with EFT, and I've been with EFT for almost 3 years. And so I have a PhD in crop and soil sciences, and my research have been mainly focused on soil health, rhizosphere ecology, soil microbiome across diverse cropping system. I'm so glad to be here today to have this opportunity.
Well, thank you. We are glad to have you as well. And I think it'll be really interesting for our listeners as I was doing a little bit of research for this today. I, like many of our listeners, maybe had not heard of American Farmland Trust, but I think our listeners would recognize some of the things that you have impacted and some of the programs that you've impacted. Michelle, do you want to touch on that a little bit more?
Great. Thank you. Well, back in the 1970s, there was a lot of tension between the environmental community and the agricultural community. And several of the leaders at that time met together and said, how can we address this? And they went around asking various organizations to bridge this gap. No one said yes, and hence formed the opportunity to create American Farmland Trust, where we bridge the divide between the farmers and the environmentalists. And we've done that through policy work at the federal, state, and local level. We've helped create federal conservation programs like the Conservation Reserve Program and also the Environmental Quality Incentives programs. So excellent programs that give financial and technical assistance to farmers when they need that support.
Excellent. I think most of our listeners know CRP and EQIP. So it's awesome to see the hand that you guys have had as a part of that and a part of your history. So let's dive in today. We pitched at the beginning of the podcast that we were going to talk about some of the economic side of soil health. And I think the work that you're doing is fascinating to me as a farmer as well, because I think that's where you really find the sweet spot, right? Is when we can marry doing what's right environmentally and also having an economic benefit to the farmer. That's when adoption of practices just escalate quickly. So I think that's just a real sweet spot. So talk to me a little bit, Michelle, of kind of what your team has done and where AFT has kind of started to bridge this gap, as you had mentioned earlier.
Thanks. We recognize that there's barriers to adoption of soil health practices. We know that they're so beneficial from an environmental standpoint. Soil health practices, in particular, we're talking about our reduced tillage, cover crops, nutrient management. We know those things reduce soil erosion. They improve soil health and soil tilth and aggregate stability. They lower greenhouse gases and they increase carbon sequestration. So tremendous water, soil, wildlife habitat benefits. But because change is hard, because costs are unknown in many cases, there is limited economic information on these practices. So we want to fill that knowledge gap. And we've amassed a team of soil scientists and economists and policy experts to do just that and produce a series of resources for farmers and their advisors to answer their economic questions.
So, Meng, before we dive a little bit more into those specific tools that AFT has developed, let's stay a little broad yet and still talk about kind of the why and why you guys were looking at developing these. So, what are some of those common concerns that farmers have about implementing soil health practices, and how can they overcome them?
That's a great question. There are a few concerns, like we call this common concerns among farmers. Like the first one is change is very hard for everyone. And many of these farmers, they've been using the same practices for a while, a long time, and often passed down through generations. So trying something new can be feel very risky and uncertainty for these farmers. And also, we have to admit that there are real costs involved. Investing in new equipment as well as spending time in learning, reading, attending workshops, participating in trials, all of these require money, time, and energy for farmers to adopt these new practices. And also, a lot of these practices like cover crop and nutrient management, it takes time for the benefits to show up, which can make it harder to justify the effort in the short term. And also, for sure, like the fear of crop failure or reduced yields, especially under like extreme weather conditions, is a concern for farmers.
Thanks, Meng. So, AFT has seen these common concerns, and you also recognize the value of soil health and the benefits of the soil health practices, Michelle, that you talked about. How did you marry those two together? So, talk to me about what AFT has done.
AFT is focusing on the knowledge gap and closing that. We're trying to provide more economic evidence that soil health practice adoption, such as reduced tillage, cover crops, and nutrient management, is indeed economically beneficial in many cases. Not all. Not everything works for all farmers. One size does not fit all. Many farmers like to point out correctly. But in the balance of things, there's a lot of evidence that yields can increase with soil health practice adoption. And if yields aren't increasing, at least yields are stabilizing. So folks are finding that their fields, their crops, can withstand increasingly erratic weather events. Their crops are still standing instead of washing away when their neighbors' crops are not faring so well in a hard rain. They're finding that their yields are resilient to dry spells because soil practices help increase soil moisture. And there is evidence across nationwide surveys of cover crop adopters from the Sustainable Ag Education and Research Agency that has evidence saying corn yields have gone up by about 2% with cover crops. Soybean growers believe 5% of their yields have improved by 5% because of cover crops. And spring wheat growers think they can attribute their increase in yield of 2.6% to cover crop use. So it doesn't happen for everyone, but it's nice to know when some farmers can link their success with yield improvements to their soil health practice use. We also find that what's most common are actual time savings with reduced tillage. That also helps reduce machinery costs, wear and tear, as well as diesel fuel, which is very costly. On the nutrient management side, they also report significant reductions in fertilizer use and application rates, and oftentimes reduced herbicide costs. So these input savings are more universally experienced among soil health practice adopters.
Excellent. So AFT has developed the Soil Health Economic Calculator and the suite of tools around that. So I think that's taken what you just talked about, Michelle, and kind of what the actual work is that you guys have done. Meng, do you want to talk a little bit more about what specifically is, and there's actually two of them. Let's give our listeners a kind of overview of the Soil Health Economic Calculator suite of tools that you have, and then maybe we can dive into each one of those tools a little bit deeper and how farmers can use them. So Meng, do you want to start for us?
Sure. I think we're going to introduce three sets of resources today for our suite of tools that we provide to farmers. The first one is we're going to talk about soil health successful farmer case studies that we did. And the second part is that we are going to talk about the farmer's guide that we developed for farmers to have a better understanding of the economic outcomes related to adopting soil health practices. And the third tool we're going to introduce today is a predictive soil health economic tool, which basically we will predict the long-term benefits of adopting soil health practices.
And Lisa, I'll add that we were able to develop the predictive soil health economic calculator tool because our initial first tool we lovingly call the retrospective soil health economic calculator tool. And we developed that one because we wanted to find out and quantify the economic costs and benefits experienced by what we call already soil health successful farmers. So these are folks that have been at it for quite some time. They've made some mistakes, but between 4 and 15 years of economic evidence can tell us that they indeed have reduced input costs. Sometimes some of them have increased yields, some of them have stabilized yields, and we're able to use a partial budget economic analysis, PBA, to analyze the exact increases and decreases attributable to the soil health practices. So that's our first tool called the retrospective soil health economic calculator tool.
That's fascinating to me. And I think our listeners would like to know more about, can you give me an example? Like, what did you learn? Or does it apply to all row crops? Yeah, I have a lot of questions. So let's start with kind of a little bit more about what it is, the retrospective soil health calculator. And then if you can give me some examples that you learned from that.
That's excellent. No. So anyone, farmers listening to this podcast, agricultural advisors, anyone can download this retrospective soil health economic calculator tool for themselves and conduct their own partial budget economic analysis. We have partnered with our on the ground staff. They're partners as well. So folks who are not economists, but who know farming. And we have made it easy for them to estimate these costs and benefits of soil health successful farmers using our Excel-based spreadsheet tool. And we have lots of guidance documents and to walk people through it. So if you wanted to do it yourself, you can. With this partnership of our on-the-ground folks and other partners outside of our organization, we've produced 29 case studies in 9 states. So it goes from California to Wisconsin, Illinois, Ohio, New York, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Virginia, and Kentucky. And so that's just 9 states. And so we're eager to partner with anybody else on the call here who's listening to get these case studies into other states. And all you have to do is find a soil health successful farmer. The criteria for that is one who has adopted one of more of these practices, nutrient management, cover crops, or reduced tillage, for at least 4 years and less than 15, and they want to tell their economic story to the world. They want to share data with us to do the math, and they want to tell us stories that we can write up in these easy-to-read, 2-page compelling case studies.
Meng, to follow that up, we as farmers like to be pretty independent and we all have very different operations. Does the retrospective soil health economic calculator work for different types of farms, like large scale versus small scale or organic?
Sure. So this tool can work for different farms, with varied size. But there are just two limitations. One is that they need to be row crops, and another one is that they can also be almond orchards. So these are the focus that these tool can do for now.
Excellent. Do any of these case studies, do you know, we've talked on this podcast before about some fungal and mycorrhizal inoculants or other soil probiotics. I'm curious, do any of the case studies involve any of that?
Yeah, of the 29 case studies, we're aware of at least two that did use fungal or microbial products. Eric Niemeyer of Mad Max Farms in Ohio is a corn soybean farmer on a pretty large, over 1,000 acre farm. He implemented no-till and cover crops and nutrient management, and he spends about $30 per acre on biologicals, which he can attribute to his success in enhancing soil health and nutrient availability. He also went on to talk about his improvements in yield for both corn and soybeans, and he felt that he could safely say that half the improvements in those yields could be attributable to soil health practices, and the other half was, he could explain with good weather and better varieties of the crops. Another farmer who was using biologicals was Tom Rogers in California, and he used nutrient management, conservation cover, mulching, and compost application. These are all the soil health practices that apply to almond production. And he shared with us that he used a blend of ammonium thiosulfate with microbial and humic acids, and he was very pleased with how that was introduced to his farm. Along with composting and mulching, he thinks that he can attribute them to soil health, soil tilth, and stabilize soil potassium levels. And he even believes that they enabled him to eliminate his potash applications, saving him $160 per acre per year. So overall, his economic benefits were quite large. Almond production is a very valuable crop, and his return on investment was 553%. Eric Niemeyer's return on investment was 35%. So, it's a range of returns, but nevertheless, these are positive economic benefits these farmers are wanting to tell us about.
All right. Thanks, Michelle, for that wrap up and for highlighting some of those farmers and the success that they have seen. So you have 29 case studies. Where can our listeners go to find those case studies and maybe find a study that's close to what their production practices are? Or if they're interested in being a part of a case study, where would you direct them to?
Great. You can find all of that on the Farmland Information Center website, which is a website we maintain with the USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service. And the easiest way to find them is, in my opinion, is to just use these keywords, AFT, soil health, economic case studies, and you will get to the right spot. We would love to have many more partners come forward and say, hey, I've got a soil health successful farmer in my neck of the woods, and therefore help us do many more of these case studies and help many more partners on the ground use them as the educational and outreach resources we're hoping they are. So please, contact us. We're willing and able to help you publish your successful farmer.
Now that we have kind of talked about the retrospective soil health economic calculator, Meng, I would like you to talk to us about the predictive approach that you guys have developed. So the predictive soil health economic calculator. Tell me what that is and what it does.
Okay, great. Yes. So the predictive soil health economic calculator, we call it PSHEC, and it's a tool actually designed to help farmers, conservation planners, and agricultural advisors to understand the long-term economic outcomes and to help them predict what's going to happen in the future. So what we are trying to provide from this tool is we are actually combining multiple data sources, models to predict the potential year one and the cumulative 10-year cost and benefits, that is dollars per acre, from adopting soil health practices.
So, Meng, is this tool ready to go now, or is it still in development?
It is still a work in progress, but I can give you some overview of the current status of this tool. So for using this tool, our tool currently includes 3 soil health practices: no-till, reduced-till, cover crops, and nutrient management. And we anticipate to cover 12 major row crops. These include the big commodity crops like corn, soybean, and wheat, and also small grains like barley and oats, and also some specialty crops like peanut and sugar beets. And the coverage of this tool, we anticipate to cover 41 out of the 48 contiguous U.S. states. So we're missing a few New England states and also Nevada because their agriculture is dominated by dairy or um, livestock. So we don't have that coverage. This tool is mainly for row crops. So our goal is to make this tool a very online web application. So it will be very user-friendly, interactive. We will provide many virtual graphs to help users understand the results. They can also try different scenarios in the future and generate reports from it. And we're testing this tool currently with multiple farmers, professionals, researchers to help get the most robust tool out. Yeah, so we hope to make this tool available in the fall this year to the public. And so basically, by using this tool, farmers will obtain the long-term data-driven predictions that are customized at their county level and help them make more informed decisions.
Excellent. So let's just take it and make it real for me here, right? I am a corn and soybean farmer in Mitchell County, Iowa. So in the fall, this opens up. I currently am using no-till soybeans and we're reduced till on our corn. So this tool opens up in the fall. Walk me through what my next steps are and walk me through what information I will get from it specifically.
Sure. So this tool will be released online. Mostly likely will be on our AFT website. So you can go ahead, check it out, and we will release that tool with user guide. So you will read how to use it, and we will also release a technical guide, which details with all the models, data sets that included in it. And so what we needed from farmers is their location and their current scenarios of practices and their future scenarios, like they like to try, like what crops they would like to add, what soil health practices they would like to add. And what we can provide is this first year changes and the long-term changes for them. And farmers are free to reach out to me as well or our team members if they need any further help. We're glad to help.
Excellent. So this will actually give me an economic value as the output of telling me what the economic value is of making these soil health changes in my operation. Is that correct?
Yes.
Excellent. What a fabulous tool that you are developing. I am very anxious to get to see that. The next question is too, how do you get the word out? Obviously, podcasts like us today, where else are you going to try to be able to get that broadcasted out so farmers know that it's an option for them?
Hopefully, we'll be using social media, harnessing that approach, and then as many partners as possible to take advantage of their email list and their newsletters. So we're looking forward to lots of folks wanting to offer this to their clients, their farmer clients, and their conservation advisor clients.
Excellent. Do you foresee any future updates or improvements to the economic calculator suite that might help farmers make even more informed financial decisions?
Yes, sure. Regarding to PCHEC, we are going to include yield stability measures. So basically, yield stability means yields are more stable under especially extreme weather conditions. So in this fall version, we will include yield stability measures under drought. And in our future versions, we're looking to include these yield stability measures under extreme weather conditions like excess rainfall and extreme temperatures. So this will be like a very good estimate as well because yield stability is one of the kind of the benefits that soil health practices can provide. And this tool will have the ability to actually quantify that.
Well, I'm looking forward to getting to be able to see the tool and be able to use it as a farmer, and also for those that are not farmers to be able to help advise their clients as well that you talked about, Michelle. I think that'll be an excellent tool. Well, as we wrap up the Soil Health Economic Toolkit, both the retrospective and the predictive, is there anything that I missed that you want to share around those that you want to share with our listeners?
Great. Thank you for that. Yes. Well, in between the two of them, we've got a suite of resources we're referring to as farmers' guides or grazers' guides. And so these are summaries of the economic and scientific literature in a digestible 2-page format. So some farmers love case studies that feature individual success stories, other farmers not so much. So for the other farmers who want to know, well, what does the literature say? We combed the literature. We put out the summaries of what national surveys are saying about these practices. We put out summaries of what on-farm research trials are saying and summaries of what budget analyses are saying. And then that's all on the row crop side. On the grazing guide, we are analyzing grazing literature from 4 different economic perspectives. So we're really excited about all of those products and catering to the farmers who want their evidence in that format rather than individual success stories.
It sounds like you have taken a lot of the aggregation work and done that for us. So thank you, because there is always such a plethora of information and it's hard to get that aggregated in a quick 2-page. So that sounds like some awesome guides for farmers. So what would some of those key takeaways be from those guides that you're discussing? And where can everyone find them?
Farmers or ag professionals or researchers just search Soil Health Economic Farmers Guide in EFT. They will find these Farmers Guide. And the take-home messages, overall, the majority of our studies, we found a positive economic gains, and that are driven by increased yields and reduction in some input costs. And also, there are a few factors that people need to keep in mind. The first one is length of time. So soil health practices usually take years, or usually 3 to 5 years, or even more years to materialize. So farmers may see that benefit like after 3 or 5 years. And so that means considering soil health as a long-term investment. And also the location, the farm scale could also be a big factor. Like no-till performs better in coarse and well-drained soils. And also like if farmers investigate in like equipment like a no-till drill, it can be more expensive for a small farm compared to a large farm. And also incentives could also be a factor, although it's not a limiting factor. In a few cases, farmers saw negative net returns for cover crops, for example, expect the incentives were included. So for those who are really interested in diving deeper into these points, I encourage everyone to actually look into these farmers' guide. They are really packed with detailed examples, informations, and to help farmers make more informed decisions.
Excellent. I actually read one of them here this morning on the economic around row crops, and you guys did a very nice job on them. It was very interesting to me. Our time is quickly coming to a close today. It's amazing how fast our time goes when we're talking about fascinating topics. Before we close today, I want to give both of you an opportunity to share any last minute thoughts or closing comments before we end the podcast today. Meng, I'm going to start with you.
Sure. I think, switching to soil health practices can be a big challenge. And we provided all these suite of tools and farmers' guides, all these resources. Hopefully, these will be useful resources for farmers to really understand their bottom lines and help them make more informed decisions. And if they are interested in any of these tools, they can go to EFT's website and we're happy to help, and or reach out to us. We are so happy to help.
Wonderful. And Michelle?
Well, good luck to all the farmers and ag advisors out there. These are big decisions to make to change your operations, but, the evidence hopefully is compelling to you that it may be worth the risk. And there is financial assistance available, technical assistance available, and we hope all of these education and outreach resources resonate with you, and then you find the answers to your question in them.
Well, before we end our time together, I do want to say a specific thank you to you, Meng, and you, Michelle. Thank you so much for your time today, and to American Farmland Trust for the work that you are doing in the agricultural community. It is greatly appreciated, and I greatly enjoyed our conversation today as well. I hope you, our listeners, also enjoyed the conversation, and we would love your support by subscribing to our YouTube channel or following us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Also, leaving a review and sharing the episode with a friend would really help us out. You can always find us on social media on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn by searching Valent Biosciences or by going to our website, valentbiosciences.com. Thank you so much for your time today. This has been Sustaining Soils, and I'm your host, Lisa Peterson. Have a great day.